Dana Turon. I'm the new Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences here at U of L. Just arrived in July, and one thing that made me particularly excited to come to Louisville was the emphasis and success in community engaged research and service and teaching. And so I'm so excited to hear from our esteemed panelists today about this critically important issue in higher education campuses as well as in our local community related to food security, access to food, and how we can better understand these problems and address these problems. So I will next turn the floor over to Cherie Wallace, who will introduce our panelists and talk more about our plan for today. Thank you again so much for being here.
Well, good morning. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Great. Good morning. Thank you, Dean Turon. And thank you all for joining us today for our educational panel on food insecurity, sometimes referred to as food deserts, and of course, we're calling it food apartheid today. We're going to feature some of our students and community leaders who are actively working to address this issue on campus in our communities as well as our state. Our distinguished panel will provide an overview of the causes of food insecurity, offer solutions, and describe resources available. So I want to thank our panel for your participation and your dedicated service to this cause. I'm also really delighted to have our special guest, and that's our Wagner High School students, Black Student Union. They're here today. Faculty on campus who've been working with them, as well as their Dr. Laura Motley, who is also a PhD candidate here on campus. DJ Biddle and Laura Krauser in the Aldwin and Ray Hilton GIS lab have been working with these students for, I think, over a year on developing heat maps around the city so that we can find places of insecurity, food insecurity. I just saw the Honorable Joni Jenkins walk in. I just want to acknowledge her. She also now works with Congressman Morgan McGarvey. We also have our associate deans here, senior staff. I see our senior associate dean of finance, David Schultz. I'm looking out. There's Laura Krauser over there. DJ should be walking in. He said he's going to be here to see you guys. I see Talia Willis, some of the other senior staff, as well as our faculty and our staff and our students here. Thank you so much for being here. I also want to thank Associate Provost and Executive Director of Admissions, Jeannie Sawyer. When you all walked in, you saw those nice little bags with little goodies on the inside. So that's because she decided to send that over to you to welcome you, because again, we know you're going to become cards, right? So now, to introduce our moderator, who's going to also introduce our panels. Andrew King Bartlett has been working with the Presbyterian Church USA's Hunger Program since moving to Louisville in 2001. This program works nationally and internationally to address the root causes of hunger. Priorities include food justice, worker justice, housing justice, and environmental justice. He serves on the national coordination of the U.S. Food Security Alliance and the Steering Committee on Food and Neighborhoods Community Coalition. That's a mouthful. He has a bachelor's from Friends World College, a master's in international relations from San Francisco State University. He has studied in the Dominican Republic, Cuba, Mexico, Central America, and lived for 5 years in East Asia, working with Koreans in Japan on their civil rights struggles. He's a husband, a father of two, and a public defense lawyer, a cook, and a musician. He's a lot, okay? And just for fun, to stay sane during the pandemic, he says he enjoyed group reading of Rudolf Steiner, yoga, ecstatic dance, you gotta show that's what that is. Hiking, cycling, pickleball, and growing sweet potatoes, yum yum. So now, without further ado, Andrew King Bartlett.
The public defender and the cook, those are my sons, not me. I claim that too. So we've got a great panel before you today, and I was asked to give a little bit of an overview before we jump into it. And since we've got a big panel, what I'll do is introduce them individually right before they present. So we can jump to the overview just to kind of put this conversation about food apartheid in Louisville in a broader context. for today, just to make sure you're in the right room. And just wanted to do a very quick acknowledgement of the land that we're on, that it is the unceded territory of the Shawnee, the Chickasaw, Osage, and Miami peoples. So we honor the land that they cared for, and also ask you to bring into this room, in your minds, someone who's been meaningful in your life, someone who's inspired you or given from themselves to make you who you are. For me, it's my dad, who passed in 2017, and a longtime hero of mine, Martin Luther King Jr., playing pool. So yes, I work with mostly all-volunteer group called Food and Neighborhoods Community Coalition locally, and Letitia might talk more about them. I'll also send around a sign-up sheet just in case you want to get updates from us. So you can decide that when the clipboard comes around. On that clipboard is also a survey that we're doing to try to get people's thoughts about what our food system should look like here in Louisville, and a food justice declaration that we'll be presenting to our politicians. So feel free to fill those out after the panel. The Urban Ag Coalition is also part of the Food Neighborhoods Coalition. Apartheid. So what the term means literally is apartheid. And it was the policy of racial segregation used in South Africa, involving political, legal, and economic discrimination against non-whites. So why do we use that term, food apartheid? Food desert is the usual term I'm sure you've heard of. The critique was that deserts are naturally occurring things on our planet, and the food system, the way it is unequally provided to people in the United States, is not a naturally occurring thing. It is something that has a basis in a history of dispossession of land, of labor, continued discrimination, exploitation against Black people and other people of color, and it's rooted in the economic system that perpetuates these things, often referred to as racial capitalism. So food apartheid is both systemic and intentional, and that's why we use that term. By the way, it was a Black woman farmer, Karen Washington, who I think is attributed with coming up with that phrase. When we talk about the food system, often we say, you can't hear. Okay. So often when we talk about the food system, people say, oh, the food system is broken. But I contend that no, it's exactly the way it's intended to be working. We have a system of big food and big agriculture, which creates both unhealthy and basically junk food, which gets us sick, and the big pharmaceuticals and medical industry profit from this. So racial capitalism and corporate control has created food apartheid, not only locally, but throughout the food system, nationally and perhaps globally as well. The concentration of corporate power is extreme in the food system. Just some examples of near monopoly control. When you have like 4 companies that have this kind of control, it's considered no longer a competitive market. You have corporations that basically have vertically integrated, owning everything from the gene and seed all the way to the supermarket, to your plate. Industries such as seeds and pesticides are controlled by just a very few number of corporations, and all this gives them tremendous power and influence to determine what the policies are, ag policies, food policies, and those are shaped by them to benefit corporations. So we end up with a food system in which the policies are shaped by corporations. We get cheap food for corporations to buy up and profit greatly from, but then the junk food that we get causes obesity and other diet-related diseases, environmental damage, And it is highly petroleum intensive, which means that agriculture and its related activities account for 1/3 of the greenhouse emissions. So if cattle were a country, it would be the 3rd greatest national emitter of carbon. Our system is very wrong, and it leads to things like climate change, and destruction of ecosystems, the lack of affordable and healthy food, and weak local food economies, struggling family farmers and land loss by farmers of color, negative impacts on health and environment, poor wages, wage theft and poverty, exploitation of farm and food chain workers, and discrimination against people of color, immigrants, native peoples, and female farmers. And right here in our city, like a tale of two cities, we have a food system that provides wealth for the East End, and you can see how long people live on the East End of our city. And on the West End, the life expectancy can be up to 12 years shorter. So food apartheid is a matter of life and death. And with that, I want to introduce our first speaker and speakers. Laura Motley. Just a few words about Laura. She was born and raised in Owensboro, Kentucky, attended the University of Louisville as a Porter Scholar, and graduated with a Bachelor of Arts degree in Pan-African Studies. Laura continued her studies at U of L and received her MA in teaching and was awarded the Outstanding Master of Arts in Teaching Secondary Award. Currently a teacher at Wagner High School, teaching Black history and career pathways. She was awarded the High School Teacher of the Year at the JCPS Educators of Color Awards ceremony. Laura also sponsors the Black Student Union and is a PhD student in the College of Education and Human Development with a focus on curriculum and instruction. And we have the Wagner High School Black Student Union. In their words, the Black Student Union at Wagner High School promotes discourse, written and spoken communication between all students and faculty regardless of race. We foster student growth and development through diversity, academics, and community service outreach. We are committed to intellectual, cultural, social, and ethnic diversity and giving back to our communities. And we currently have over 90 members, making it the largest student-involved club on campus. We focus on changing the narrative about Black youth and strive towards being positive role models for our school, community, and culture. So, I would like to invite you to the mic, and just to help out with timing, since we have a large panel, I've got these handy cards, and when you've got about 2 minutes left, I'll show you this one. It says 2. And then when you've got about 15 seconds or so left, I'll show you this one, which is like, whoa, or wrap up. So just to keep us on time, hopefully that'll help out.
Thank you. So I do not do this work by myself. I actually have 2 other staff from Wagner who also helps out with the Black Student Union, and I just want to recognize them. Dr. Tanisha Taylor Holt, who is our counselor, and Miss Robinette Starks, who is our homeschool coordinator and basketball coach at Wagner. And I'd also like to thank DJ and Laura from the GIS department for helping us, as previously said. And I also want to thank my school, of course, U of L, for inviting us here. We really appreciate it. So I'm not going to take too long. I want to introduce the Black Student Union. These are only 8 members of the BSU. Like I said, we have over 90 members, but this core 8, they represent our BSU when we present about this cause, food apartheid. So if you guys want to come on up. introduce themselves.
How's everybody doing today? My name's Andrew Hill. I'm a junior at Wagner High School, and I've been in the Black Student Union for 3 years.
Hi, my name is Dakota Houghton. I'm a junior at Wagner High School, and I've been a part of the Wagner BSU since we founded it back in 2021, so for about 3 years now.
My name is Jeremy Dole. I've been with BSU for about 3 years now. I'm the secretary, and I'm a junior.
My name is David Hume, and I'm a sophomore at Wagner High School. I've been at the BSU for about a year now.
My name is Amaya, and I'm a junior, and I've been a part of BSU for 2.5 years, and I'm vice president of BSU.
My name is DJ. I'm a senior. I've been at BSU for about 3 years now, and I'm the president of BSU.
Hi, my name is Daniela. I'm a junior. I've been in BS for 3 years, and I'm the community outreach.
My name is Isaiah Rogers. I'm a junior, and I've been in BSU since last year.
Adios.
Is this the microphone?
See it now.
Presentation and the work that we are doing is dedicated to the honor and memory of Bobby Ellis, a 9-year-old third grader at the JCPS school, Brook Elementary, who died from malnutrition. A child from our community died because he did not have enough to eat. We live in the richest country in the world. This should never happen. Say his name.
Bobby Ellis.
What is a food apartheid? A food apartheid is a lack of access to fresh and healthy food due to social inequalities within the food system, including the non-limited to race, geography, faith, and economics.
The demographics of the Western of Louisville. The current population of the Western of Louisville is 61,251 residents, with 7% of that population have bachelor's degrees and 38% have in some college. The median household for the Western of Louisville is $21,733, with 81.6% of that 61,000 being minority population. Food insecurities. States that are in the darker orange have food insecurities that are above the U.S. average. The USDA reports of 2021, over 10.2% of U.S. households were food insecure, which implies that typically they run out of money for food or food entirely.
Louisville made the top 10. No, not in basketball, but in food insecurities. Louisville currently ranks 10th among its peers in households living in a food apartheid area at 3.56%. A household is considered in a food apartheid if the household is in a low-income census tract, doesn't have a vehicle, and is further than a half a mile away from a supermarket.
Obesity rates in Louisville. Studies also show that 1 in 5 children of color are considered obese. The dark green area on the map, which is represented by the yellow arrow, shows the West End having the highest obesity rates in the city of Louisville. 10 hungriest states in the nation. Not only is the West End a food apartheid, 10 hungriest states in the nation. The numbers on the map indicate percentages of households at risk of hunger. 12.7% is the overall average of all states for households at risk of hunger. Kentucky is at 17.6% of households at risk of living in a food apartheid.
Location. Many of our Wagner High School students and BSU members attend school in the East End but live in the West End of Louisville. Our BSU wanted to compare the Kroger's grocery store in the East End, particularly the St. Matthew's store, to the Kroger's grocery store on West Broadway. As you can see by the map, there are only 2 Kroger's located in the West compared to many in the East.
West End Kroger's on Broadway, Louisville. Based off interviews with students who shop at this Kroger's, this location constantly runs out of items, hence the empty spaces. This Kroger is supposed to feed over 61,000 residents in the West End. Items are always unavailable, making it hard for the West End residents to obtain the food items that they need. This is a photo of a Kroger's at the West End. Looking at this picture, you can already see the lack of fresh produce with empty spaces. Let's look at the Kroger's at the East End. As you can see, there is not one empty space and more fresh produce. This shouldn't be the case whatsoever.
Would you look at that? The city of Louisville is building another Kroger in the East End. Kroger is breaking ground on a store in East Jefferson County this week. The $32 million project will feature a Starbucks, gas pumps, and a drive-through wine and spirit shop. Kroger said in a news release, they look forward to exploring into the Louisville area with this exciting store. That includes new designs and larger fresh department to give every customer a full, fresh, and friendly shopping experience. When asked about opening a new location in the West End, they were quoted as saying they are exploring options. And this is a model of the new Kroger. This Kroger will also be 4 minutes down the street from another Kroger in the same area.
Publix supermarket. The supermarket chain Publix also has a new location in the East End of Louisville, which will open soon, thus giving the East End another option for purchasing food.
What about Walmart? Just go shop there, right? The closest Walmart to the West End is in Shively, which is shown by the orange arrow on the map. This Walmart is only a neighborhood Walmart and not a supercenter, so a selection of items are often limited. Most residents of the West End have to cross the river to Indiana to shop at Walmart and Kroger stores in New Albany and Jeffersonville areas.
Facts. As you can see, there are more liquor stores in the West End than there are grocery stores and other places to get fresh, healthy food. Look at all of the different liquor stores that populate just one section of the West End.
Map shows where a Black Student Union lives versus where he works. He compared how his work area has more pharmacies compared to where he lives. 2 pharmacies in the West End are supposed to provide support and care for over 60,000 residents. This makes me wonder why the city doesn't have the same respect and care for my neighborhood like they do in the East End. Shout out President DJ Burnett.
The stereotype that black people do not eat healthy. African Americans have the stereotype that we do not eat healthy. Well, the stereotype was created because of the types of foods that are traditionally a part of our culture's cuisine. The intake of foods such as oxtails, pig's feet, and chitlins all originated from slavery. Enslaved Africans had to make the best out of what they were given, which were the leftover parts of animals. But in the early to mid-20th century, it wasn't uncommon to see black neighborhoods with gardens in the front and backyards of their houses, providing fresh fruit and vegetables for their families. Black people need to return to being growers, builders, and producers. So when we're consuming, we're also feeding our liberation. And another from Xavier Brown.
How to tackle food insecurities. Despite the fact that there is more than enough food produced each year to end world hunger, in collaboration with businesses, healthcare, higher education, government initiatives, and other nonprofit groups, we can launch a nonprofit grocery store and develop a framework to end food disparity that can be scaled to address this global issue. What we want to do. Our dream is to either create a nonprofit grocery store or push for the city of Louisville to place a grocery store in the West End. Our idea of a nonprofit grocery store would be a place where West End residents can come and get free or discounted price food items. The profits will be put back into the store and the community. The space would also serve as a spot where residents can come and learn how to cook a free, healthy meal for their families, and also take free books with an Afrocentric theme.
Grocery on wheels. Another option would be to convert an old school bus into a grocery store on wheels. We would call this on-wheel store Grub on Wheels. We are all thankful for Southern High School who donated a school bus for our cause. Once converted, this bus would travel throughout the West End, making stops and allowing residents, especially the disabled and elderly, to grab items. Collaborate with organizations that are already doing this work. We are currently in the works of collaborating with Catholic Enrichment Center, where our BSU members work alongside this amazing organization and learn the ins and outs of what they do and provide to the community. We also like to get all JCPS BSUs involved throughout volunteer work, culinary art, and students just overall be overall. I love the noise. And here's some art that I created just to describe and show how most brown and black communities are affected by unhealthy product sales.
This slide represents a handful of our BSU students setting up a sign-up sheet for people to help out with our food drive. These proceeds have been finalized and donated to the Change Today, Change Tomorrow food bank in the West End. This is some of our freshman BSU from last year showing off some of our non-perishable food items that we collected. We are also doing another food drive this year. This food drive will go on from October 23rd to November 16th. If you'd like to donate, the drop-off location will be at Wagner High School from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. on weekdays.
The Justice For You podcast. This is a podcast that our Wagner BSU created last year, featuring Mr. Lance G. Newman, Ms. Shay Johnson, Mr. Greg Van, and Dr. Stephanie White. Throughout these episodes, we talked about some of the problems that the African American community face with stereotypes and some of the reasons that we live in a food apartheid in the West End. Here is a QR code for you to access the podcast on YouTube. If you could scan it right now if you're watching on your phone, but we will have a QR code set up at the table. We can now open up the floor to any questions.
Dakota's behind me. Great. David. Samaya. And Danielle. Excellent. And Isaiah. Thank you all so much. Future cards.
Thank you so much. And I think what we'll do is take questions during our Q&A session after the presentations. If that's all right. You'll be around, right? Panelist is Emmanuel Fields, who is an experienced conservationist with over 17 years in the field, specializing in waterways, wilderness areas, and stewardship of agricultural lands throughout Kentucky. After receiving his master's degree in sustainability from the University of Louisville, he continued his research in rural and urban food pathways and narratives of Kentucky's historically underserved farmers and agricultural producers. Emmanuel is also an award-winning photographer and filmmaker. He uses these visual platforms to help bring awareness to various social, environmental, and racial injustices. Amongst his most recent projects includes an ongoing documentary film which explores recent narratives, lived experiences, and personal stories of rural Kentucky Black farmers. Emmanuel is looking forward to furthering his research with young Black farmers and how they are currently forming resilient communities centered around identity and food production. So your research is on Kentucky black farmers, and I believe you brought a clip of a video for us, and if you could discuss these issues that you have found and what they led to in the reduction of, how they led to the reduction in black farmers in Kentucky. Hello, hello. Yeah, I think you're gonna have to.
Okay, that's fine. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. Now my name's Emmanuel, and I have worked for a small nonprofit for the past 6 years that our goal there is land conservation. And my job as stewardship coordinator, I visit between 120 to 175 different farms per year, which I've done. That's what most of my day is spent doing for the past 6 years or so. And I can tell you right now, how many of those do you think were black-owned farms that I visited? 0, and that began to spark questions in me, like, where are they, what are they doing? I know that they exist. It wasn't until I started my master's degree here that I actually was able to begin formulating some of those questions. And so, like Andrew said, I have been working on a documentary film. It started as my thesis project. It is still going on, and I'm going to play a short clip of that for you right now. You guys do that okay? Needs to go up.
People in Kentucky deal with tobacco, some other kinds of agriculture, but we would take from Africa because in our schools, it is a big part of who we are. So now, in this country, when we're talking about the African American agriculture, we're going to just more background to who we are. And it's not a negative thing. I think people think that.
What we do at the Sikh Museum, which Sikh stands for Struggle for Emancipation and Equality in Kentucky. What we do at our archive is that we collect information on families and their land. And what we try to do is find out what happened to their land. Did they lose it? And if they did, how did they lose it? Is the land still there and somebody just never claimed it? Or was it sold or taken? It's very important to find out what happens to the lands, and not court cases are a good source for this.
Farming is something that has to, in my opinion, it has to be part of who you are, part of what you feel, part of life.
I was a professor and a director of academic studies. And in that capacity, we never really talked about agriculture because agriculture was considered to be such a bad thing in the black community. It is to this day.
You know, if you have an opportunity to purchase land. And because it's, you know where your food's coming from.
Okay, yeah, I guess we can ride around to the front and then we'll come back down, I guess. And then we'll go up the hill. But yeah, Martin Acres, this is a very historic property down here in Muhlenberg County. This land has been in my family for about 150 years. So being here is a blessing, really. Definitely a lot of history, and I like to soak it in, kind of put myself in the place of my ancestors, really, and do what I can to kind of pay it forward. You know. The first one was Lorenzo Dalmark, and he was born in 1833. He was a slave, born as a slave. But when he was about 25 or so, he started buying land, and a year after the Civil War, in 1866, he was able to buy 125 acres as a slave. So, well, newly freed slave of the Civil War. But that 125 acres is here on Martin Acres today. So, we are here on some post-Civil War land. I mean, it's amazing to think about it. Like how many black people right after the Civil War had land. So definitely a blessing. So yeah, then going down, his son, my great-great-grandfather, is Finest Martin. His house is that one back in the trees. We'll ride back around over there. Finest, yeah. Finest, F-I-N-I-S. Finest Martin. He was born in the 1850s, so he was born out here on Martin Acres, you know, no hospitals, no nothing. He was born in a cabin in the woods. So definitely the American story right there. Put the rights of the land into his children. So my great-grandfather was his son. He deeded him 100 acres. He deeded, I believe he had 5 sons, and he deeded each son a set amount of land. And we call it the Finest Martin estate. So, and that's all within Martin Acres. At one point, Martin Acres, at its height, was around 1,500 acres. Yeah, definitely land. Now we're at about 800. Just through the years, we've had some changes. The largest black farm that he's come across in the state of Kentucky, and it's all black owned. So I think it's just beautiful how this is kind of undisturbed. You know, it's really easy these days to have other people come in, buy you out, you know, take your land away from you, take the heritage away from you. But one big thing that my grandpa taught me is we need to keep this land. We need to keep it in our family and just keep our history and keep the traditions going. Like this land will always be farmland. This land will keep the traditions going, and that's just, you know, super important to me. So that's what we're doing.
Okay. I hope you all were able to hear everything okay. Doing this project, I was open to things that I didn't think that history honestly could be like kind of tracked down to. I wanted to show, this was the first kind of like 6-7 minutes of the documentary. The entire thing right now is about an hour long. I'm still adding people to it. But the important part I feel like to take away here from the very beginning, especially talking about the loss of black farmlands, is what Brian said there on the farm was Finance had the idea to put the deed, the title, and everything into his 5 sons. And so what, as a conservationist, what I've found out, especially traveling throughout the state, the biggest problems that have affected black land laws throughout Kentucky are the issues surrounding heirs property laws. A lot of individuals will own farmland, and when they pass away, unfortunately, there hasn't been a proper deed or title that has been created, and so it's very tied up in the system, and it eventually either gets sold away by who knows who, or it becomes taken away. In the very beginning of that clip, down at the Sikh Museum, down in Russellville, Kentucky, which they are doing some really amazing research into black land loss, and you saw just a brief clip of that room that they had, a massive room about the size of this that is completely full of court cases, eminent domain court cases, state-sanctioned, government-sanctioned land seizures of black-owned farms throughout western Kentucky and into central Kentucky. And I think that, I guess I was really lucky to have experience. So far right now, it's full of about 16 different farmers, and I can't wait to continue to explore this, keep it going. The ones where I'm at right now, I was actually just down in Laurel County all the way, and I've been traveling between Laurel County and Madison County. And that's it so far. If you, I also want to say, if any of y'all want to see it in its kind of unfinished process right now, just let me know and I'll send it to you. It was online. I recently just took it down because I made some edits and I've added 2 more farmers to it. So yeah, I would love to talk to any of you all about it. Thank you.
Excellent.
Powerful video. The importance of land. And we're going to work on the sound, perhaps. I think it's gotten a little better. Great. So, next on our panel is Letitia Marshall, a friend and colleague. We work on the Food Neighborhoods Community Coalition, the steering committee together. Letitia was born and raised in rural Kentucky. As a child, she remembers doing chores on her grandparents' farm, Haylock, and family-owned grocery store. As an adult, farming has become her passion. Letitia has lived in Louisville for the past 19 years and graduated in 2008 from the University of Louisville.
Go Cards!
With a bachelor's degree in psychology with a concentration in social sciences and a Master of Science in social work from the Kent School in 2011. Letitia, please discuss your evolution into becoming an urban farmer and share your view on the role of black farmers in addressing the food apartheid issue.
Morning. Can y'all hear me? I'm gonna try not to use this mic. I don't know how I feel. Let's see. Y'all can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Good morning.
Good morning.
First, I want to say just a few things. As I'm listening, these children made me weep just a little bit. Y'all not cheering, right? Y'all are young adults who are completely owning everything about food justice and your community and making sure that your community thrives, not just survives, right? So thank you for your work. Thank you. I have a special place in my heart for the young ones, and we need them, right?
Yes.
I used to hear this speech all the time when I was a kid, right? And all the old people, right? No, we need y'all. We got to train them up. But it's true. And I can't believe I'm repeating those same words. But yes, I feel old, Laura. Laura and I went to school together here. Yeah. So, but you all are doing incredible work. I'm so proud of you. And I'm so glad that I was introduced to this crew today. And I hope that we can connect afterwards, okay? Yeah. The second thing is, well, we've all talked about food apartheid. What is the difference, right, between food deserts and food apartheids? Because there is a huge difference, right? Food apartheid, again, is what?
On purpose.
Food apartheid is on purpose. It's intentional due to what?
Racial inequality.
Social inequalities, racial inequality, redlining, hello. Okay, what else? The root cause is systemic racism. Racism, period. Okay? I want to keep a certain group of people that happen to be, have black and brown skin from these resources, right? And resources can mean anything. It can mean land, it can mean food, it can mean money, healthcare, insurance, lending to buy a home, okay? I hail from Shobley, right? We are neighbors. And we have conversations all the time about the historical context of Shobley, which is they were, at some point in time, a racist suburb of Louisville. They did not want black people in their neighborhoods. So much so that someone by the name of Ann Brayton and her husband decided to help a family called the Wade family, right, purchase a home. But this is what happened. The Wades couldn't go to the bank. Or they did, they tried. And they also went to realtors who refused to provide service. So they saved their pennies, right? Gave the money to the Ann Brayton family. The Braydons took that money and did what? Purchased the home for them, deeded the home to them, okay? And then the Wades moved in. So one thing our people will do and will always continue to do is make it work. So always, we will always figure out how to survive, right? Ain't got no choice. And that's a whole thing in itself, right? That's a whole nother conversation. It's a shame that we don't have a choice, but we will, okay? And so, you know, I've lived in Shobley for 11 years. I'm about to move on from there, very, very soon, actually. But I have it's a special place in my heart. We've been through a lot in that area. And in the hopes of changing some things about our local food system. Someone had mentioned Walmart in Shobley. It's gone. Did y'all know that?
Oh, didn't even know that.
April of 2022, they closed it.
Now we don't even got a Walmart, y'all.
But they're steadily putting up Family Dollars, Dollar Generals, Dollar Trees, and $1.25 store, right? They're steadily putting those up. And allowing that to be acceptable, an acceptable source of food. So again, who is creating the issues? Not the black community, not the brown communities. We're just trying to live a decent life and take care of our families, right? Just like everybody else wants to, okay? But this is historical. This isn't something that just happened overnight, right? We all know that. So food apartheid has everything to do with intentionality racism. Food desert, lack of food. I'm sorry, I'm supposed to push this button in. Okay, so the top left corner, that's a picture of my grandparents on my mom's side. God rest their souls. They have passed away. My grandmother passed away last October. We just actually had a kind of memorial service for her, just individually. It was virtual and individually on October 7th, so that it's been 1 year, October 7th. But honey, when I tell y'all she was a fighter, she's a 3-time breast cancer survivor. She was on dialysis for 11 years. Okay. But, and I could imagine that some of that was the food that we ate. Culturally, you know, high in fat, cholesterol. And we ate what we had. And I remember that as a kid, eat it. I'm like, Granny, this don't taste like chicken. It was rabbit, you know, eat it. And it was fried. But she could cook some sweet potatoes, y'all, some candied sweet potatoes, yams, that's what we call it. And she could throw down with some, at the grocery store, she would fix breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So the farmers would come in black and white, in a predominantly white rural area, right? They would come in every single day and spend their money at the store. buying country biscuit and gravy, right? Country ham biscuit, and then whatever she could throw on the grill, she would cook that for them as well. But I do remember growing up on the farm, and I do remember not having to think about where my food came from in that moment, because they always had something. It might not have been what we wanted all the time, but it did taste good for the most part. I mean, I could tell the difference between chicken and rabbit, right? Rabbit's a little gamey, right? We could tell the difference. But they always had something. When I moved to Louisville, it was like a big culture shock for me. First off, I ain't never seen so many black people. In my entire life, didn't. I graduated from a class of 150 people, and 15 of us was black. So the experience of being black in America has always been a part of my life, right? I know what that feels like. Being spit on, rocks thrown at me, being treated like I was less than. Didn't even know there was an HBCU in Kentucky because my counselor, who was a white woman, didn't even help me apply for college. I did that on my own. I went to the library and just used their computer because I didn't have one at home, right? So all of these things, that is our experience. May not be your experience, but what I do know is that there are people in here that sit in chairs that make policy. There are people in here that own land and they're not doing anything with it, right? There are people in here that are available to continue to meet in spaces like these and have conversations like these, and that want to do something about the issues. There are people in this room right now that know somebody that owns a vacant lot or has one next door to them. There is somebody in this room that is interested in farming. Maybe they don't want to be outside in the heat, because I don't either. Maybe they don't want to be outside in the heat harvesting crops, but maybe they want to learn how to apply a skill like plumbing or electrical work or engineering, robotics, creating software for agricultural purposes. So we can all play a part in ending and combating food apartheid, right? Somebody can do something in this room. So when I was asked how I emerged as an urban farmer because I grew up on a farm, I didn't really think it was going to be a part of my life ever again. But what I found out was after committing myself to 7 years straight here at U of L to get these little degrees that I got, I needed something that was just mine though. Like I felt like I did that stuff for everybody else because that's what you were supposed to do. Your parents were like, get a good job, make enough money, save some of it, get a job with good benefits, right? And get those degrees. But what I found out was that wasn't fulfilling to me. Then I ended up getting married at 21 and had a baby. And I needed a space that was mine. So what I found out was when I created that space called a little garden in a 4x4 raised bed, is how I got started with a bucket and a bowl alongside it. I learned that I needed to heal. There was a lot of things going on, right? And so through that healing, I, as an outcome, created this garden, grew this food, posted it on Facebook. People started to get attracted. How did you do that? And then, boop, Bear Fruit and Grow was born. Okay, so I teach people how to grow food. I teach people how to have access to that in their own backyard, side yards, windowsill, doesn't matter what it is. From 2 to 92, I don't care how old you are, how young you are, everybody can learn, right? And there is no shame in learning how to provide for yourself, your family, and your community. Okay? Thank you for your time.
Riveting, as usual. I got hungry too while you were talking. Next we've got Haley Zoller, Anthropology Graduate Program student. Started in the program in the fall of 2021. Her area of interest are environmental justice and political ecology, specializing in food justice and food interests. and food sovereignty. She is currently partnering with the Cardinal Cupboard to access you were 40 seconds shy of your time.
Oh, thanks.
We'll give it back to you. Where was access? Okay. Okay. She hopes to use the findings of her internship to bring together faculty, staff, and current students on campus who are working to address the needs of students, to create best practices to solve the root causes of food insecurity for college students. Anna, you
So thank you everyone for coming today. This is an amazing group of panelists, and I'm super grateful to be here to listen and learn from all of you all as much as to share what I'm doing for my graduate internship. I am working on this internship that is focused on finding out what is being done on U of L's campus regarding food insecurity. This semester, I've partnered with Kathy Meyer. She is here today, and she is running the campus pantry as the director. And she, and those of you not familiar with the Cardinal Cupboard, it is the campus pantry located just right outside this building, down the hall, I believe. And it is a student-led initiative that one of the founding members was maybe coming today, Erin Kurtz, and Erin was very kind to let me interview her this summer to learn a little bit more about how the cupboard came to be. And by partnering with them, I've been able to gain an understanding of why a campus pantry was needed and who the on-campus and off-campus partners are, and what other research is being done to tackle this issue of campus food insecurity. Forgot about this. So the purpose of my final project is to shed light on what's currently being done and to bring together those who are providing food services outside of the traditional campus dining to those experiencing food insecurity. Large campuses, it's often the case there are many individuals doing this work, but they're working in silos. This also happens in the communities as well, and I would like to help prevent that and work towards bringing people together to collaborate. It's important to get these people together and bring awareness of food insecurity and food apartheid on and off college campuses. So I had the privilege to attend the first Weaving the Food Web. It was a People's Summit on Food Systems and Urban Agriculture. Many of these panelists were leaders and attendees. And this brought together nonprofits, government, students, individuals, community leaders of the greater Louisville area. And Letitia was one of those leaders and hosts at the summit. And she emphasized something really important to me at this event, that the answers are here. You guys came here for a reason. You're more knowledgeable, you're well aware of what's going on, and we shouldn't be recreating the wheel, we should be collaborating together. So I look forward to next year's summit, and I hope you all are there. And these are some of the experts that I spoke with throughout my internship. So I was able to interview a lot of these folks who are doing different types of work related to food security to learn more about this crisis and how we can help provide basic needs to our students more holistically. I spoke with Stan
Siebold, the Chief Strategic Initiatives Officer at Dare to Care, to learn more about their partnership with the Cardinal Cupboard and Dare to Care Food Bank. They are one of the donors to the campus pantry. And with that, they are required to collect certain demographic information to receive those donations. And then Stan also recommended a wonderful book titled Reinventing Food Banks and Pantries, New Tools to End Hunger. And this book has blown my mind in that we don't have time to wait for policy change. So we have to balance that work and to serve those who are food insecure. And the pantries and the banks, food banks, they're doing this work, so how can we make that more holistic for the folks that use those services? Katie Russler shared some data with me from the food bank from the last academic school year, and to no surprise with the literature, I'm going to share a few highlights of that. Freshmen, sophomores, and juniors are more likely to use the pantry. Undergraduate Black students were more likely to use the pantry, and our international graduate students were more likely to use the pantry. Women were more likely to use the pantry. Percentages of our first generation and our Pell Grant freshmen, those percentages of use are very, very high. And then students enrolled in arts and science majors were more likely to be using the cupboard. And then 18.5% of students applying for emergency funds were also using the cupboard. And this data echoes the literature on campus food insecurity and who is more likely to be using campus pantries. And the literature also talks about providing emergency food doesn't tackle the root causes, which are connected to housing, transportation time, insufficient financial aid, ethnicity and race, disability status, and your year in school. And there is a profound stigma with food insecurity, so oftentimes it leads to isolation of those students. However, there is a need for qualitative data to go along with these numbers. We can look at the numbers, and if they do a lot of explaining, but adding that qualitative piece in those voices of students who are experiencing food insecurity will provide such a larger impact. Studies report that 15 to 59% of college students experience food insecurity at some point during their program. These impacts they have on students' physical health, mental health, their overall education experience, the dropout rates when you're trying to decide between food and an education. So it's something that shouldn't be overlooked and the university should not dismiss. This is a serious issue that's going to require a balancing act of individuals, organizations, and policy approaches. So outside of the Cardinal Cupboard, I've met with a few faculty and staff who are doing some amazing work. Justin Mogg, he is the Assistant Provost for Sustainability Initiatives. He is leading our campus community garden, Garden Commons. I believe he's doing something after this, so see us for details if you would like to attend. He also leads students who want to learn about gardening, foraging, maple tapping, and you name it, he's probably doing it. I spoke with our sustainability coordinator at Aramark, and she is bringing initiatives to our students. So really we need to spend our time finding out what folks are doing on campus. Because these partnerships highlight that the university is aware of food insecurity and that conversations and efforts are ongoing. And we're all here. The critiques and suggestions that I'll be providing in my final paper, they're meant to build stronger programs and support our students more holistically. At the beginning of this semester, I got to meet with two ladies from Eastern Kentucky University, Amanda Green, who is an anthropology professor, and Abby Hickey, who is a nutrition professor, and they are doing some very incredible work there. They've created a food studies lab that will help operate as like an interdisciplinary, community-based, participatory research food lab. And by partnering with Kentucky colleges, we can learn from one another and form a statewide coalition. I've been able to track down some current data that's being collected by the Council on Post-Secondary Education and a survey from 2021 about the financial wellness of our students. Both reports indicate students enrolled in colleges in Kentucky are experiencing food insecurity, coupled with the lack of other basic needs. So this data is very valuable, and it's crucial that it doesn't get lost. So once I finish my final analysis of the research, I plan to share with anyone who is willing to read it, and I hope that we can engage administration on policy change. I want it to help Kathy and her team of students take the pantry to the next phase, and then help inspire undergraduate and graduate students to take on that qualitative research.
Excellent.
Thank you so much, Haley, and thank you for your work. Next, and certainly not least, we have Vincent James, who serves as the president and CEO of Dare to Care Food Bank. Vincent's role involves ensuring that Dare to Care's programs and resources reach as many people as possible, helping the food bank to address the root causes of food insecurity, and championing the role equitable food and nutrition can play in developing healthier, stronger, and more successful communities. Mr. James previously served as the Chief of Community Building, overseeing 6 city departments: Metro Parks and Recreation, Public Health and Wellness, Office of Youth Transition Services, Louisville Zoo, Office of Resilience and Community Service, and the Office for Safe and Healthy Neighborhoods. Thanks for being with us today. And I would add, just if you would make that connection, if you're not already going to, between food insecurity and violence, as that was one of your previous roles.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, sir.
Good, good. Listen, I am so excited to be here and to be able to share on this distinguished panel, every one of which I know, and I just met 1 or 2 people that I didn't know, but I'm so honored to be here. I'm so excited for these students that participated. I agree with Letitia. You all are amazing. So much so, I remember the first time that I heard you all at the Justice Fest. There were several folks that were committing money, and the mayor and the Urban League was there, and also Park Federal Credit Union. They each had said that they were going to provide $10,000. I've worked in government, I've worked in the private sector, so I stood up with Dare to Care and said, well, we're going to make sure that you all get that money. Yeah. And so what we did, our team, Elizabeth Warlick, worked with the students in putting together a project plan to begin to launch it. And I'm so excited, and the reason I say that, I want to invite you all to our Bobby Ellis prayer vigil, which is going to be on November the 19th at Big Elementary School from 5 to 6:30. And I would love to talk to you, and we can follow up afterwards, but to invite you all to come, because that's how Dare to Care got started. In 1969, as a result of that tragedy, that is really, it should have never happened in any place in this world, in particular in the wealthiest country in the world, where a 9-year-old died of malnutrition on Thanksgiving Eve, on the day that we were all getting ready to celebrate with our families. Some faith leaders came together and said, this can't happen anymore. Community leaders came together and said, this can't happen anymore. And it started with a little truck going and picking up food and just distributing food. And some 50 plus years later now, we're delivering out over 26 million pounds of food now, going out to 13 counties, 5 in southern Indiana and 8 in Kentucky. That's an amazing thing. And when you look at our history, you can see the trajectory, a line. If you were to walk into our building on 28th and Virginia, you would see a chart of our history, and you'll see the line of poundage of food going up each year as to how much food we're putting out in the community. And when I walked in for my first interview at Dare to Care, when I saw that, I was disturbed because I said, this is going in the wrong direction. We should not be going up. We need to figure out how we can go down. And when I was talking with the leadership at Dare to Care and the board, one of the things that they had stressed to me, Dare to Care's mission is to lead the community in feeding the hungry and conquering the cycle of need. I wanted to focus on, and I have been, and that will be during my tenure at Dare to Care, is focusing on conquering the cycle of need, really addressing those root causes, addressing the structural violence that have created a lot of the things that we're seeing in community. And so I'm really encouraged by what I've seen with the students, and I had learned for the first time from you guys a term that I had not heard, and that was food apartheid. And when you all have shared it with me, I've been saying it ever since. I've been sharing it with everybody I know. So there's power in learning from each other. One of the things that we see an opportunity at Dare to Care, because we are such a large organization, we have a lot of capacity to be able to really make significant changes in the community. And one of the ways in which we're looking to do that, and I'm so glad that you had mentioned Katie Martin's book in terms of how to reinvent food banks and food pantries, because that's a book that we've been looking at and utilizing as a way and as a tool to think about how do we reimagine food banks? How do we reimagine food pantries? We have over 300 partners that we serve throughout the community. And one of the things that I've seen immediately with this is an unused and underserved opportunity for us to be able to marshal an army of folks to be able to not only be strong advocates, but also how do we work with them, listening to our neighbors in the community and learning in terms of what our neighbors need and then providing that. And because of that, last year we were awarded a $1.8 million grant from the Humana Foundation to literally reimagine how do we build out and create an equitable access to food, no matter where you live in the community, that you would have access to fresh and healthy food when you want it, when you need it, and the types of food that you like. And the way that we're going about doing that is actually talking with our neighbors and understanding what those specific needs are, what those specific challenges are, what would they like. And then from that, we're going to build out the whole infrastructure of reimagining our food pantries. And one of the ways that we're looking at our food pantries, we're identifying it as a model food pantry where it's not just a box of food that you come, you get, and you go home. But we want to provide a dignified experience when our neighbors come in, that they can select the types of food that they want, that they have an opportunity to be able to say, this is what I like. Think about it. We all eat food based on our culture and what we're used to. Why shouldn't our neighbors have the same opportunity and experience? Absolutely. But not only being able to provide that, we have a captive audience when our neighbors come in to utilize our facilities and our partners. And so what a better way that we can actually begin to address some of the other challenges that we know that are creating the need for even living in a food insecure city and area. And so one of the things that we're looking to do with these model pantries is not only do you have the dignity of selecting your own food and choosing when you want to come, and also identifying opportunities where you can come multiple times a month, but also have an opportunity to be able to have other resources there. And one of the things we're looking in terms of having health navigators in the food pantries to be able to work with our neighbors to identify what the needs are of the neighbor, and then begin to work with how do we make referrals and partner with other organizations to be able to ensure that families, not so much measuring how much food we're putting out the door, but my metric is how many families are we helping to elevate out of poverty. And one of the ways that we know we can do that is providing the economic development opportunities as well as access to education, essentially addressing those social determinants to health. When you begin to focus and begin to help people to be empowered and not a handout but a hand up, then it changes the dynamic. You can empower people to make a difference in their lives, and that's what we wanted, that's what we're doing. We essentially figured out and continue to work thinking from a systems perspective, how do we impact this entire system? Not just looking at solely as food, but we want to look at every aspect and partner with individuals in the community, because no one entity, no one organization can change, have significant change the way that it needs to be changed alone. It's going to take all of us.
That's right.
And it takes all of us to work in partnership. And the way that we work in partnership is working together, putting aside our differences. And I grew up in a church that had a motto, there's no big I's and little U's. Everybody is somebody. And so we got to recognize that all of us have something to bring to the table. Just as I learned new terms from the students at Wagner High School, we can learn from each other constantly. And that's one of the things I'm really excited about is our future. Because when I first heard these students and I heard them present all the data that they had, the research that they had done, that looking at the storytelling in terms of how they utilize pictures and graphs to tell the story of everything that's happening in the community, they know what it is and they know what's up. And so because I am the CEO and I can make decisions and changes, one of the things, my team does not like me coming out to these kinds of things. Because every time I come out, I come back with an assignment or a new project for them to work on. But what I want to talk to you about is an opportunity for you all to actually present at the Bobby Ellis Vigil. We haven't done that before. We have not done that before. What I want to do, we already have to do because the mayor will be there, the governor will be there, invitations have gone out to all kinds of community leaders, and I'm going to make sure that the president, the division president, if he's not scheduled to be someplace else, but he's a partner at Kroger, because he needs to see this.
Yes, he does.
And we need to make sure that we have an opportunity to be able to share and talk. And I've spoken with Jay Kent. His heart is really trying to figure out, he just arrived working at Kroger's, his heart is really trying to figure out in community, how do we work together? And so what an incredible opportunity to bring all of these forces together and to be able to make a difference. That's what can happen when people of influence can work together, working with people who aspire to do greater things. All of us collectively working together, we can do some amazing work. And so that's what I'm excited about, being able to do that. So I'd like you to have the same presentation. And I'll figure out in terms of getting back with my team, they already have the agenda together and everything's set up. But we're going to change it to give you all an opportunity to be able to do that. And they know I do that anyway when I go out. So it's really a privilege and a pleasure to be here, to be able to be, again, among so many people. And when I think about the opportunities that we have and the support that we have, and I have one of my teammates here today, our CFO, Daniel Frock, who's sitting in the back. I'm so thankful for him being here and supporting. He handles all the money. He makes sure I don't spend too much. And so he's amazing. I'm also glad to see my wife, who's also supportive of me. She's been an advocate and supporter of often known as Joanne's husband. And lastly, I want to thank my alma mater. I graduated from the University of Louisville with a Bachelor of Science degree in business, finance. And I've taken that finance degree and I've done some incredible things in our community in serving people. And I'm so proud of this university. I'm so glad that I had the opportunity to come here and so excited about the Louisville Cupboard. I wish we had had a Louisville Cupboard when I was in school.
Amen.
Amen, lights and walls. We had we were putting together ramen noodles and bologna to eat during the day and trying to figure out how we were going to put things together. But the thing about food insecurity wasn't even addressed. Didn't even talk about the fact that these students who are here on campus, you can't learn when you're hungry. And so being able to have an on-site place where you can come and so get the groceries that you need to provide for your families is an amazing thing. We've come a long way, but we got miles to go. Yes. So I'm going to stop there because I can go on forever. So I'm going to stop there because I know we have some time that we're going to spend for some discussion and questions. But again, I just want to thank everyone who's here, who's really conscious about the fact that we can make a difference, that we can look at how we end hunger, that we don't have to deal with the issues of having food insecurity in neighborhoods, that we work together and collectively and lift up our voices together, we can overcome a lot of injustices that we've seen. And it takes each and every one of us working together in partnership. When I think about nature, nature teaches us how to work in partnerships. When you think about nature, one day hydrogen said something to oxygen, and they said, listen, we can work together. And they created H2O. That's what we do. We drink H2O. When you think about wolves run in packs. When you think about birds, they fly in flocks. When you think about schools, they swim in fish. But if you were to ask a dinosaur, how are you doing? Dinosaurs are dead because they only work by themselves. But birds are still hot. Birds are still flying in flocks. Fish are still swimming in schools. And bees are still high. So we got to learn how to work together. And when we work together, we can accomplish a lot. And that's how you create a sustainable approach to life, is working in partnership. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. James. I tell you, it's a new day in Louisville. Having Vincent at the helm of Dare to Care, it's such a great asset for our community, that collaborative spirit. And thank you to our whole panel. We're going to have time for Q&A. So one more round of applause for the So, if you've got a question, please stand up or just project so everyone can hear.
And I teach here at U of L, and this is wonderful to hear all these different people that are coming together, kind of like doing the same goal. And I'm especially honored because I am a graduate of Wagner High School.
So my question, I'm a master's humanities student, and I'm currently taking a course called Food, Bodies, and Oppression with Dr. Freeman in the philosophy department. So I say that because my question is kind of fueled by the things we've been reading lately. So my question to all of you is, like, when we talk about health and choice in like the context of food apartheid and food insecurity, how do you find balance or avoid engaging with the harms of diet culture? And the harms that I'm talking about are more so, sorry, I was so nervous. Are more so like talking about capitalist production and exploitation of workers that is fueled by diet culture and like the excessive choice that we have. So it's like, where do we find balance in advocating for this choice and diversity of food choices without, I guess, like not, or ignoring our location and like an imperial power that, I guess, pushes food insecurity on a global scale also. I know that was kind of wordy, but
In terms of some of the things you talk about, because you talk about big, large retailers, you talk about, you know, the industrial complex that helps to create and continue to manifest these food deserts or food apartheid in communities across the country. You know, when we think about what creates these environments and when you think about choice and opportunities for choice, it is definitely related to a systemic issue that has been going on for generations. And that when we think about structural violence that impacts communities because of policies that have also impacted communities, the way that we have to go about changing that is through people. It is the people coming together. It is the people lifting up their voices to begin to speak out against the things that have created what we've seen. But not only that, we have to empower people to be able to operate and to be able to empower them to be able to move beyond where they've been held captive in these communities, what we see. And they know best how to do that. And it's the people working together to identify ways and approaches in which we can address the system. But not only do we address the system, we also have to put systems in place to begin to work with people where they are. So that means in terms of when you begin to look at how do we address, food insecurity, you do it in terms of education, access to health care, access to housing, all of these things that we know that we need as safety nets that have been torn down because of the systemic policies that we see in community. So one of the ways in which we do that is begin to work collectively and in partnership with one another to begin to address these issues.
And I would add to that, the small farmer is changing the game. We have to have, I love our farmers that have 100 acres, 300 acres. That's great, right? They can definitely produce a lot of things, and the efficiency of their production is, they have the funds to be able to provide, to buy the machinery and all the things that are needed, right? But the small farmer, the local farmer, is changing, I think, the climate of food access in our city specifically. And so yes, and it's the small farmers cooperating with each other to also create impact. And so there is hope, and there is work being done. But I think we have the biggest opportunity ever to change the definition, to define what everything looks like as it relates to our food system in the city. And again, these conversations are great, but I'm interested in what are the action steps, and then let's work together to execute those steps.
And one of the things I can share with you, Dare to Care is now working with small farmers, local small farmers, and actually purchasing fresh produce and purchasing protein at market rate through a grant that we have, through the LFPA grant that we have through the state. This is going to go on for the next couple of years, but it's really the intent in terms of how do we strategically, again, put money in the hands of those folks that need it and deserve it and have a right to it. And so it's exciting to see smaller farmers who typically would have been ignored because we could not afford to pay the prices that they have to have. But through the working with government and working with the opportunity and community, and again, that's what it's going to take, we can now support small farmers to be able to provide food that we purchase to go right back out into the community.
Sustainability is important though. So are we having conversations about how that's going to
Oh,
continue
absolutely.
after the grant?
Yes.
And then food is medicine. Food is medicine. So we can change all kinds of things related to our health and our mental health as well as our physical health if we concentrate on that local fresh produce and access to it.
Oh my goodness.
Can we take one more?
One more, because we have to feed our special guests, and they have to go to another room. So if you, one more, please. Go ahead.
Awesome. So I'd like to say thank you all. It seems like there's a wealth of knowledge on this panel, and I was excited to listen to everybody. Second, it seems like there's a lot of kind of nonprofit and academia in the room here, and I was interested. Ma'am, I've forgotten your name, but Letitia, sorry. Do you operate a for-profit farm?
Yes, most farms are for-profit.
Okay.
But most people work and farm for a living.
Okay.
So they have to make a profit to be able to continue to feed you.
And then, do you find it difficult to find customers to purchase the produce?
No.
No? Oh, that's interesting. I mean, I've spoken.
No. Of course, scale is everything, right? And then you have to learn things about your community.
Mm-hmm.
And spend some time. If nobody's ever seen a soursop before and have no idea what that is, or microgreen, then as the farmer and educator, you have to kind of take that for what that is and an opportunity to be able to teach somebody so they can teach somebody. And they can teach somebody.
It's interesting. You said the majority of farmers that I speak to said, it's easier to grow the produce than it is to find the person to buy it, or you have to build that relationship and that trust and that
it's
quality
all about relationship
and that consistency.
Yes.
So that kind of opens up to the broader question that I have is, does U of L, do they have any initiatives to purchase locally sourced produce, and then what percentage of the food provided on campus is locally sourced or from urban farmers? I was excited to just hear from the CEO of Dare to Care that they have a program to purchase produce. I haven't heard of that before, so I'm wondering what are we doing to incentivize institutions to purchase produce? I'm sure the direct-to-consumer model works, but I don't know if that's robust enough to really build a food system.
Your question, because that is to my question. So I do know a little bit about the university in that their dining services are third-party contracted through Aramark.
Okay.
So I know Aramark, they do have a sustainability coordinator who I got to interview a few months ago, and She did enlighten me that a few of their sourcings do come from local, like greater Kentucky, southern Indiana. But they have challenges on negotiating those contracts. That's where I kind of drop off, and I don't know how those things are negotiated or what their purchasing looks like, things like that. But that is one of the solutions to that I'll be suggesting is there are people here in this room that have had those conversations, want that to be an option. So.
Okay, I'm sorry. This was to Laura, to Emmanuel, to Letitia, Haley, and Vincent. Thank you all again for being here. Thank you to our special guests. Not only do we have those nice little package for you, we also have a nice healthy lunch for you in the next room, because we know you have to get back to your campus. We also want to thank, again, all of our sponsors. Kroger also did sponsor the fresh fruit that we have today. And we also, again, want to thank Ginny Sawyer, the Associate Provost and Executive Director of Admissions, for the nice bags she provided. DJ actually made it in. I recalled him early on, but DJ is right there in the back here, and I already recognized Laura. They have worked with Wagner High School students over the last year on GIS. And thank you again, Laura, and as well as the other faculty who are working with the students. You all keep up the great work. It is just phenomenal. I just want to encourage you, and again, I look forward to welcoming you here in about a year or so for some of y'all as future parents. Thank you all for coming. Thank you. All right, thanks. Thank you so much, Jody, for coming again.